Hello and welcome to the NextPowerUp review summary of Helldivers. This is a game by the guys who made the newest Gauntlet, Arrowhead Studios, and it's published by PlayStation Mobile. This was originally a game that was on the PlayStation and on the PSP and stuff like that, and has eventually graced our screens on the PC. So this is a twin-stick shooter, except it is quite possibly unlike any other twin-stick shooter I've ever played. I played a lot of the stuff, including the newer Gauntlet, a lot of old twin-stick shooters, some of the sort of middling ones, and only a few modern ones because there hasn't really been that many that have been great, to be honest. But Helldivers does a lot to change that. Now, this game is surprisingly simplistic in its core nature, but everything is quite deep. So the whole purpose of this game is the storyline kind of takes a little bit of a backseat. So the storyline is kind of irrelevant. It's only there to give a reason as to why everything is the way it is. But it doesn't matter because this game is just a core entertainment fun title. It's not trying to be serious. It's by no means going to win any fantastic awards for story or voice acting or anything like that, but it is just a solid core game. Now, one of the things I want to talk about in this game is that it is probably one of the best implementations of multiplayer I have ever seen, but the negative side of that is the single player is not so great. So in this title you can play single player, which is pretty boring, to be honest. These types of games are more fun with friends. That's how it's been. That's how it's always going to be. And single player, yes, you can do it, but you're really going to struggle on some of the harder difficulty missions. Even if you've unlocked quite a lot of the later tiers of weapons and upgraded them, you're still going to struggle to play single player on difficulties between 8 and 12 without some serious strategy and without just really pussyfooting around maps. Like, it would take you ages to complete a level 12 mission or a Helldive mission as a single player, even with good upgrades, and it's just not that fun. So while this is a multiplayer title that supports single player, I don't recommend buying it if you intend on playing it on single player, because it's just not that fun, to be perfectly honest. But it is genuinely awesome as a multiplayer title. Now, their implementation of multiplayer is probably the best we will ever see. So with this game, you can play locally. So you can play up to 4 people locally, which includes a vast mix of keyboards and controllers and PlayStation 3 controllers or whatever. So you can have 1 person on keyboard, or 4 people on controllers, or 2 Xbox controllers, keyboard, and the PS3 controller. The whole works. You can play locally however the hell you want, basically. The other thing is that you can play locally and then join an online game. So you can go join an online game just by yourself with maybe one other person who's online. Then that other person can have someone who's sat next to them who then plugs the controller in and could literally join like that. And then while you've joined, you can also say to someone, hey, do you want to come join this with me? They can then come in and plug in a controller and join you as well. So there's this massive way of just enabling people to play this game. Like, there's no nonsense. If you want to play with multiplayer people, you go over to the little stand, you select game, and that's it, you're in. There's only been 2 instances over God knows how many hours I've played this game where I haven't been able to join, because just as I've joined, they've completed a map. That's it. It's as simple as that. You just go on the platform, choose a game, join it. If you want to join somebody else who happens to have a spare controller, plug it in, press A to join. That's it. It is as easy as it could possibly be. And to be perfectly honest, I have not noticed any network connection issues whatsoever, except today, the day of recording, which is Wednesday, when I completed a mission, lost connection to the network, and wasn't part of the party anymore. But it didn't matter because all my XP, mission progress, and rewards were safe. So it's just the world's greatest implementation of multiplayer for any title, pretty much. And there's no mucking about with the lobby system. Everything's just plain straightforward. You can set stuff to private if you want, but it's just good. And there's a voice chat option in there which you can turn down by pressing escape and turning people up and down or whatever. And you know, the turn on or key press or automatic voice capture. So it's just, in terms of the actual multiplayer core system, it's perfect. Absolutely perfect. Amazing. No game is probably going to match it for a very long time. Now, I mentioned single player was not that great, and another thing I want to mention is that yes, there are tons and tons of objectives, tons of content, masses of gameplay hours here, but a lot of the core objectives in a mission can get quite repetitive. So you're on the big map, you jump into a sector because that's the sector that's currently under attack. You've got all of these different planets. All of these different planets are offering different rewards. You've got tons of weapons to choose from, tons of stratagems to choose from, research points to upgrade everything you own. When you level up, you'll get some cosmetic armor stuff. And then when you go into a mission, The enemies are randomly generated. Obviously, they'll be from one specific section. The terrain is randomly generated, and the objectives are randomly generated. Now, there's a lot of objectives. You've got bomb disposal, place a bomb next to some nests, or if you've got like an APC or a tank, you can blow those up too. Vehicles are an awesome addition, and you can see at this. I finally managed to get a mission where I was playing in a vehicle and everyone joined in, and it just went perfectly. That doesn't always happen. Sometimes vehicles really screw you up. And you'll notice that in the chat at the end of this mission, one of the people says, wow, APCs are awesome, the tank sucks. And yes, the tank is really quite awful. There are a lot of cases where the tank is basically worse than having a couple of players instead who are driving the tank. So a bit of a pain in the ass. But as I was saying about the objectives, there's tons of objectives, lots of different types. Many of them are solved in the same way, where you have to interact with them and press the arrow key combinations or whatever. But after you've played the game for as long as I have, you suddenly start to realize how repetitive the game is. And this is where I drew some parallels in the written review. In this game is quite similar to Warframe. If you're a Warframe player, you'll understand. In Warframe, there's a ton of loot. It's the same as this, masses and masses and masses of loot. Loads of upgrades, loads of unlocks. And the whole purpose of that game is not just to jump in for the storyline and go for a completionist thing, because you can't complete Warframe. You just can't. I mean, if you've got to play for probably a few thousand hours to unlock all items, and even then you still probably won't be finished because you're hooked already. And so it's a game about just playing lots and lots and lots and lots of missions, maybe the same missions. So most of the objectives will be quite similar for a self-set achievement or a self-set reward that you want to get. You want to get this reward, or you want to achieve this. And this game is similar to Warframe. Now, a lot of people are going to find that pretty repetitive. Warframe isn't for everyone. Obviously, it doesn't feature the crazy free-to-play model as Warframe, but that core concept of jumping in a mission, grinding to Kingdom Come until you level up, get research points, and unlock weapons or stratagems or whatever, that's going to appeal to a lot of people like me who quite enjoy grinding games like that, like Warframe, like lots of free-to-play titles are like that, in fact. But this one, it focuses on the loot. The whole point of this game is to shoot things, have masses of fun, and collect loot. But for some people, they're going to find a lot of the objectives in the individual missions are very much the same. They do try to keep it fresh and throw things around a bit and set objectives all over the place and choose where you drop, which is quite a cool feature. But it is going to get repetitive, and that's something you should bear in mind. Obviously, I mentioned there's quite a lot of grinding. The XP system is quite slow, and unless you're willing to do missions that don't reward items but XP boosts instead, or harder missions which will obviously reward more XP, then grinding to get higher level is going to take a while, and leveling up your character is how you unlock primary weapons like rifles, SMGs, shotguns, sniper rifles, whatever. So your primary weapons are gained by that, and leveling is quite slow, but it's a game that's developed around grinding, so that's to be expected, but it's not going to be for everyone. Other than that, the rest of the game is friggin' awesome. The attention to detail is fantastic, but a lot of the attention to detail is sort of kept on the down low until you suddenly discover it. Like, I remember in the match previous to recording this, I said to some people who were set on fire and, got knocked out and had to be revived, I said to them, if you go prone, the fire will go out. And then suddenly, the next time all of three of them got set on fire, they all jumped down and proned. And then they were like, oh, that's quite cool. That's an interesting mechanic. We didn't realize that existed. And the other thing is rocket launchers. Rocket launchers won't just drop as a rocket launcher. They'll only have one ammunition, but they'll also come with a supply pack. Now, you can pick up both, and you can load your rocket launcher, but it'll take 10, 15 seconds to reload it. Or, to focus on cooperative play, because the game is all about co-op, you can have someone else take the supply pack and reload rockets as you fire them, and they can reload it really quickly. And there's tons and tons and tons of these little examples of tiny little attentions to detail, which is really, really quite good. Even the prone thing is quite a simplistic value of just going prone so that miniguns shoot over you instead of into you. It's good. There's a lot of attention to detail for a game that is not necessarily graphically intense or has any really seriously complex mechanics, but it's quite detailed, and they've thought about the things they've put in there. Yes, the mechanics are simple. Yes, the systems are simple, but the detail is there for those systems. So it's quite nice and engaging, to be perfectly honest. Obviously, I mentioned there's an ass ton of content. You've got tanks, vehicles, weapons, airstrikes, turrets. I can't even remember anything because there's so much. Multiple different guns which can then be upgraded, which can then be unlocked into better guns, which can also be upgraded. And there's just tons of content, and there's tons of planets, masses of sectors, and I haven't even managed to get to the boss at one of the end of the sectors, if there even is a boss. There's hundreds of different types of enemies across all three things. So yeah, just content. Another thing I want to mention is a lot of games like Warframe that have so much content, a lot of the weapons, people say that weapon's obsolete, ignore it, or this gear is useless because I've upgraded to this. That it does take a bit of an effect in Helldivers, except you'll often find that weapons aren't, they don't become obsolete too quickly. They're actually interesting weapons. They're so varied that they all feel useful, and so you find yourself thinking, hey, I could build my character around armor and big guns, or hey, I could build my character around speed and survivability. And there are so many different weapons and items and stratagems that suit different playstyles and still feel useful, that even though there's an absolute mass of content, the saturation doesn't become too broad and shallow and everything feels a bit samey. Everything feels genuinely different. Like just the other day, I was walking around in my mech with the missiles on one shoulder and the chain gun on the other, and I saw a guy, and I can take out vehicles with this thing. And then I saw a guy walk up who also had a mech, and I'd never seen this before, and he just had dual shotguns on it. I thought, that's pretty cool. And he was just mowing down other types of units that were slightly more difficult for me. So all the items just feel useful, and that's one of the key things that this sort of game needs. Otherwise, it very quickly becomes quite bland, and everyone's going for the same results. And very rarely did I come across other players with this identical loadouts to me. The other thing is the community. Now, one of the main aspects of a successful multiplayer game is the large-ish community. And this is, a pretty big community. There's lots of players, and they're nice players, to be perfectly honest. It's very difficult to come across something like this on a multiplayer game, but it's just nice to have such a decent-sized community, the ease with which you can interact with them, and, they're just not dicks, basically. Another thing is the game's relatively easy to pick up. Both the tutorials are pretty good. The map can be a bit daunting the first time you look at it, but the tutorial is reasonably decent, and so you can hop in and pretty much learn how to play the game in about 5 minutes. There's a massive range of level difficulties from 1 to 12, so if you are kind of crappy, don't worry. There's a difficulty level for everyone, and other people are going to be playing those difficulty levels as well. So you're not going to randomly join in and go, oh, everyone's playing level 12, who am I going to play with? It's not like that. Massive range of players, massive range of skill, so there's always something for everyone. That is pretty much it. This is probably, it's not a blockbuster. It's not The Witcher 3. It's not Pillars of Eternity. It's not the greatest thing since sliced bread. But it is a core, excellent entertainment title. Literally, I would quite happily load this up on my PC downstairs, and if I've got friends around, plug in a load of controllers, we'd all join in. Everyone could play. It's just a good, solid title that, doesn't try to do too much, doesn't overcomplicate things that much, and, just offers players a nice reward for the amount of time they're spending in. Obviously, for some people, the repetitiveness is not ideal. A friend of mine who I played this game with over the last week, he liked the game, and he particularly enjoyed it when he finally could approach the more difficult segments of the title. But he didn't like spending too much time on it. He didn't like spending 3 or 4, 6 hours an evening like I did. But he did enjoy himself when he was playing those 1 to 2 hours. So it is a very good title for everyone, but not everyone's going to want to spend all of that time maybe leveling up their character to like level 30. I think I'm only level 15 or 16 at the moment, something like that, almost 20. And, there's people that are level 30, and you get more stuff that unlocks the further you get down that line. So I can imagine people don't necessarily want to spend too much time on it, but it is such a good quality title overall that honestly, I'd recommend it to a hell of a lot of people, unless you are just dead set against twin stick shooters. So yeah, fantastic title. Gotta say, very glad this has come to PC. So this is our second to last review before the end of the year. Next week we will be doing Shadow Complex, I believe. And of course you can read the full review and performance analysis in the links below. We will be doing our usual Next Week in Gaming episode on Saturday. I think this is possibly the last one before Christmas. So yeah, we hope you enjoy watching this and reading the review, and until next week, we'll see you guys on Saturday.